Hey guys, welcome to part 3 of my Legion Discipline Guide. This is going to be a bit more in-depth going into atonement healing and specifically raid healing. I don't have raid footage to show you, unfortunately, but in the next video we'll be going over some logs from raids, which will show you, specific cast sequencing, but for now we're just going to talk about some concepts. Um, so basically, the way to understand disc is some people, kind of ask this question of, well, how many atonements should I keep up for the whole fight? And the answer is that if you're thinking about keeping up a specific number of atonements for an entire fight, you're actually approaching disc the entirely wrong way. I think I mentioned in one of the previous parts that uh, if you put atonement up on people, the more damage spells you fit inside that atonement, the more healing that atonement did, so the more efficient it is. And if you put up more atonements in a smaller amount of time, um, then all of your damage spells get more efficient. So they kind of both scale with each other, and it makes this interesting kind of pattern with your mana and damage and healing that even on a fight that has like completely static damage, you're better off using a bunch of your mana and cooldowns to heal for 15 or 20 seconds, and then just not really doing much for the next little while. It doesn't mean doing nothing, but you kind of do like a smaller number of atonements. Maybe you'll, instead of just smiting over and over again, you would smite just like a couple times. I'm gonna try to find some mobs to like demonstrate a cadence almost, but the idea is that disc functions under kind of this burst healing model, even if there isn't burst damage. So like, if you're not spending mana, you just kind of smite. Maybe you'd smite again. You put your dot up. Maybe you're gonna penance. You can see I'm not like struggling to cast every single second. I'll always be casting is not really something that applies to discipline in Legion, because if you always insist on casting smite in raids, at least you'll run out of mana, and that's not very good. And even in mythic dungeons in the higher levels, you really do want to take a break from casting sometimes. Um, but yeah, so the idea is that we're gonna basically put Power Word Radiance on a bunch of people. We're going to put Atonement on a ton of people by using Power Word Radiance a lot. We'll go up to 12 or 15 or even more atonements, and then we'll use our big damage. We'll use Penance. We'll use Mindbender. This we already have the dot running, and then maybe smite a few times to fit that in. So to help facilitate that, we're going to use Power Infusion. That speeds up the entire process, lets you get an extra like radiance in, maybe a couple more smites, add some haste for your dot and mindbender damage. And it basically just makes your burst all around better for whenever power infusion is up. And then we also have Rapture, which Rapture it makes Power Word Shield have no cooldown for 8 seconds, which you can't really like burst as hard as you can if you just use Power Word Radiance. But you can do a decent amount. So you can see, I'm gonna kind of try to shield a bunch of these people. Yeah, I'm up to like 5 atonements. You know, I didn't have enough targets, but it's basically you can get to like maybe like 7 or 8 with Rapture, but you're not going to go up to like 12 or 15. So it's kind of like a half burst for Rapture, but it doesn't cost anywhere near as much mana. So you can kind of use that to fill in as well. And basically, as Disc, you want to look at the overall damage pattern of a fight and just kind of figure out when it is that you want to burst. We'll take a fight like Iron Reaver in Hellfire Citadel, right? She does that big pounding thing that damages the whole raid like 3 times in each phase. So what you would do is, like 10, 15 seconds before that happens, you just start going ham, just start power word radiancing a bunch of different people, and then as soon as the damage hits, you would, penance, mindbender, and then smite a few times, and you would do a ton of healing. You'd spend a lot of mana doing that, but that's okay. And it's also okay if your power word radiance overheals, because let me just show you something real quick. So, Power Word Radiance, I heal. It's gonna do. How much did that do? It did 26,000 healing. Okay. I'm gonna penance, and my penance is healing for like 20,000 a tick. So, Power Word Radiance's actual healing doesn't really matter. I mean, you can see like it only heals about as much as Plea does, whereas Penance just does way more damage. Even Smite is better healing than Power Word Radiance is. So the only point of Radiance is to put Atonement on people. And that's what we do. We just put Atonement on a bunch of people, and then, a Penance with like 18 Atonements out is a lot of healing. Like, that's basically like half a Tranquility or Revival or Divine Hymn worth of healing. And it costs a lot of mana to do this, and you have to be aware of the fight and set it up properly, but instead of just kind of aimlessly keeping atonements up and blowing all of your mana on plea and everything, you want to maintain like a lower number of atonements, maybe 4, 5, or 6, and then when it's time to ramp up, you just Power Radiance everybody, and then you burst, and you'll just do a lot more healing that way than if you try to float like 8 or 9 atonements across an entire fight. You'll actually just spend most of your time reapplying atonement and very little time actually healing. And mana is kind of important because we're basically looking to get the most out of our mana. And then in every fight in Legion, you're going to be running out of mana at the end of the fight. It's not like the past couple of expansions where you just have a bunch of mana forever because there's no spirit. You have like your starter amount of mana for the entire expansion. We've got some trinkets and stuff that might help with that. Maybe I'll do a trinket analysis in a bit later, maybe in a few days or weeks or something. But basically, we're just looking to make the most out of our mana, and the most out of our mana is not just doing sustain healing all the time. It is actually clumping all of our spells together and burst healing. And yeah, so just to recap it one last time, the kind of basic disc pattern is we're just kind of Power Radiance a bunch, Power Radiance, Power Radiance, Power Radiance that guy. There aren't enough dudes to get a lot of atonements, but basically, when that starts to run out, we would just do damage, heal all the people. And it's pretty good. And even in 5-mans, you can use Power Word Radiance to get atonement on 3 people instead of just plea, just Radiance once. And that's just the basic idea of what you want to do as disc. In raids, you might not be doing this back to back. Like I said, for something like Iron Reaver, you'd burst for that pounding, but you wouldn't just like sit there and heal in the meantime. You would, you do some smites, you do some pleas, Power Word Shield, keep your dot up, stuff like that. Just don't spend too much mana. A good way to look at your mana is if you have like a boss that has a set amount of health for the fight. If your mana is a lower percent than the boss's health, you should probably slow down on your mana. Whereas if your mana is a higher percent, you could probably afford to spend a little bit more mana. And if you follow that kind of guideline, you'll get a good feel for just how much mana you should be spending on any given fight. Alright, the next video we're going to do is actually going to be a pretty lengthy one. It's going to be involving a lot of looking at Warcraft logs, but you'll get to see spell sequences in action, and I'll kind of illustrate this whole burst healing thing, specifically with how many atonements you should have out and when you should have them out. And we're going to be using Warcraft logs to look at all that. So I'll see you guys in that next one, and goodbye for now.